How you doing, Rich?
What's up? How's it going? How's everybody doing? Rich from Metal Asylum and Brave Words and the Metal Hall of Fame and the Am I Evil graphic novel too, and Sea of Tranquility once in a while as well. And we are joined by Mr. Steve Niles, who is one of the writers for, tell us, Steve, what are you writing for?
Well, right now, I guess we're here to talk about the Dio graphic novel, which, I finished it up a couple months ago. Yeah, there you go. And actually the art is almost finished on it right now by Scott Hampton.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, we're definitely going to grill you a lot about that. So be prepared. We're going to have a lot of questions about that. But I also want to talk a little bit. You've had a great career too. So definitely want to touch on. 30 Days of Night. Holy shit! What an amazing franchise that you've created. So you won't get out of here without a couple of questions about that. But yeah, go ahead, Rich. Why don't you start with your questions? I'm going to share this thing around and drum up some interest.
All right. Well, give everybody a little brief history about yourself, your artwork, and how you got to this point.
I started writing pretty young, but I actually got my start in the Washington D.C. music scene. I was in a couple of bands that came out on Discord Records, and I had been a lifetime comic fan. But it didn't dawn on, because in DC, everybody did everything themselves, put out our own records. We did it, set up our own shows. We were just like little punk kids. And it was from that I was like, well, I love comics. Why don't I just make comics by myself? And so I started a company and I published stuff like Clive Barker and Richard Matheson and all those things. And honestly, I was about 19, 20 at the time. And I did all kinds of comics through those years, but it wasn't until my 30s, late 30s, that I did 30 Days a Night. And then sort of exploded, after years of doing lots of independent stuff, I finally had a little more of a career.
Very cool. So yeah, Richard, did you actually work with Richard Matheson at all? That's, I've seen you've worked with some amazing people. We're definitely going to touch on that too. But did you have any contact with him or his estate or anything?
Yeah, I had I was, like I said, I was really young and I loved Richard Matheson for so many reasons. Twilight Zone, Night Stalker, I Am Legend. So many, Trilogy of Terror. And so I wrote him a letter basically saying, I Am Legend's never really been done right. There was Last Man on Earth. There was a Mega Man. At the time, there wasn't a Will Smith movie. But he wrote me back like really quickly and said, like, you can have the rights to I Am Legend, but I'll have to charge you $100. And I was just like, deal. So, and I had interaction. He helped approve the artists and things like that. And years later, when, he was much older, I was able to go to his house. When the Will Smith movie was out. So I got to go to his house and we just hung out and talked for a couple hours. It was really cool because he's such a hero of mine.
That's amazing. Yeah. And like I said, we definitely want to touch on some of the other amazing people you've worked with. But yeah, what a legend, absolute legend. Like you said, Twilight Zone and all the amazing fiction from the 50s, and I don't know, just a total legend. But all right, go ahead, Rich. I'm still sharing, so I'm slow today. I don't know what's going on with me. But go ahead, Rich.
Right. So you did all the writing for all this stuff, or you do some art, drawing and artwork as well? What's your position?
I don't do any art. I just do all the writing, and I work with a wide range of artists.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I'm looking at your page, and you have a lot of cool, sci-fi and horror images that you posted. So I was curious if you do any of that kind of, drawing yourself, or you're just strictly a writer.
Just strictly a writer. I can't draw a stick man. I heavily rely on my artists.
All right.
Let's let's go there a little bit. So, like I said, we definitely want to get it. We're going to get into the DO, but all right, I'm ready to ask questions. I'm here. I'm focused. I'm present. So, Ben Templesmith, holy shit! I mean, what an amazing artist. I mean, was that? So, did you just luck out to get someone that amazing on your the one that really made your name?
Yeah, it was back in the days when everybody hung out on message boards, and I met him. He was. I mean, I was in my 30s. He was like 20, 21. And he started posting stuff on spawn.com, Todd McFarlane's website. And I saw his art and immediately, like contacted him, said, I'd love to do some work with you. And we actually wound up doing stuff for Todd McFarlane. We did a few arcs of his book called Hellspawn. And that's what got us together. And then we did 30 Days a Night together.
Very cool. Yeah, I was just gonna say, if people didn't know, he was part of the team that did 30 Days of Night.
Right.
Very cool. I mean, yeah, his art is absolutely amazing. So I guess I'll follow up on that, and then I'll turn it back over to Rich. But my follow up question on that is, well, let's just talk about the amazing legacy of this book. I mean, it's great writing. I don't want to give all the credit to your artist. He's fantastic, but it's just amazing. It's really amazing. The film and the legacy. I mean, do you kind of look at this sometimes and say, wow, I can't believe that my idea turned into all this?
Yeah, I mean, I was as surprised as anybody. I did when we initially did the book. We were contacted by my friend Ted Adams at IDW, and he was like, "Do you have any ideas for some comics? I can't pay you, but if you have some ideas, we can put out some comics." So I sent him my basically my list of rejected pitches, because I'd been pitching around Hollywood and all that and hadn't sold anything. And he picked 30 Days a Night. He's like, "Yeah, this Vampires in Alaska thing sounds kind of cool." So we did it. We didn't get paid. We did it for free, the first issue. And then when the first issue came out, everything just exploded, and probably the highlight of the whole thing was getting to work with and meet Sam Raimi, because he was the producer on it. And he, it's the only time in my entire career I've been in a room in Hollywood and pitched something, and right there in the room, he's like, "Let's go make a movie."
That's cool.
Yeah.
And
what year did that come out?
Yeah, the movie
came out in 2009, I think. I think so. Yeah, 2009, I believe. I'm terrible with dates.
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't seen the movie. I've only read the book, so I'm behind. I got to catch up.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what you think. There are differences between the two.
I saw it a long time ago. I don't remember. I remember it a little bit. I remember it was okay from what I remember, but that's been a long time, so I have to rewatch it again.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's great. But all right. So go ahead, Rich. You ask. Like I said, I've got my questions lined up. Why don't you ask? I know you have questions too. And if you out there are watching, you have questions for Steve Niles, creator of 30 Days of Night, and lots of other stuff. I don't want to shortchange your career, but our focus is also, he's got forthcoming The Holy Diver graphic novel based on Ronnie James Dio's music. So
before we get into that, what did you do leading up to that? Anything more recent that you could talk about?
Yeah, I've done a lot of, there's been a ton of books coming out. It's been a little weird because of the pandemic. I've had I've got a lot of stuff coming out next year because a lot of stuff was just delayed. But yeah, I just did a book with John Carpenter's company called Graveyard Moon. I've been, that series Kick-Ass, that was also a movie. I've been writing that for 2 years.
Cool.
And
good
actually
movie. I like the movie. That was fun.
Yeah, the comics are just as fun. It's all that kind of over the top violence and no superpower. It has So I've always got something going on. Try to get a book out every couple months.
Cool. And now, you've worked with all the majors. So tell us about some of your favorite runs across the years. Through Marvel. It doesn't have to be the major for any of your runs. Maybe a lesser known one, or maybe someone doesn't know about your work on Ash or whatever. whatever some of your favorite ones that people should really know about.
My favorites are probably the stuff that are all creator owned. I mean, like 30 Days a Night. I did a book called Freaks of the Heartland with an artist named Greg Ruth, who's absolutely astounding. That's always been one of my favorites. But, I got to work for DC and Marvel a little bit. At DC, I wrote a few Batman stories, which is, it's just a dream come true. I mean, growing up as a kid, I read tons of Batman and I mean, that's the thing. I really grew up on superheroes. So getting a chance to do Batman was really cool. And then at Marvel,
before you go on, I'm sorry. What villains was he up against? The stories that you wrote?
I made them up in every one, except London. Except the last series I did was called Gotham After Midnight, and I literally had every one of his villains in there. One of it, from the villain gallery.
Nice.
Sort of one per issue for 12 issues. So I had fun with that.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And then for Marvel, I got one chance to work for Marvel, and it was so fun because, before Marvel did superheroes, all they did was monster comics. So they asked me to do an old retro sort of comic. So I had like the Thing and the Hulk and Giant Man and the Beast, all the sort of monstery Marvel characters go up against all the old pre-hero monsters. And that was really fun. But that's right. Shout out to Kelly Jones. He's absolutely right. Kelly Jones is the artist that I've worked with a lot. He's the one I did Gotham After Midnight with, and he's just incredible.
That's cool. I guess that seems kind of special that you were able to even, because the word on the street is that those places have everything locked down. Like where most people say, I've got a Batman story, but I've got my own villain. They'd say, no, you don't. You're going to use one of ours. That's just, at least the word on the street. So that's pretty cool that you got to, be creative and use your own guys.
I was lucky. They gave me some freedom, and I had fun with it. And I got to work with, like Kelly Jones. I got to work with Scott Hampton, some really amazing artists.
And now, this seems like the perfect place to tie in this question. So you've also collaborated with some other pretty fascinating creators. You've worked with Rob Zombie and Adam Jones from Tool. I mean, tell us about that experience. Co-writing with these major rock stars.
It was actually very different working with them. They each had a very different style of working. With Rob, we did a Bigfoot book together, and it's the only time I've ever worked like this. I would type 5 pages of comics, and I'd send it to him, and he'd send it back, and it would be 10 pages. And I'd send another, and we sort of just played hot potato with it, and wound up with a 4-issue Bigfoot series that was illustrated by Richard Corbin, who's absolute legend. So that was really cool. Rob was really easy to work with, really just nice guy. Working with Adam Jones, as you can guess, he's very meticulous. So, like his music, very, very intricate. And we did a X-Files 30 Days a Night crossover. And we had an office set up where Adam just did little drawings and words on Post-its and just covered the wall. So we had the entire thing mapped out before I even started typing. So that was really cool, and Adam's a super nerd, he's way into comics and horror and sci-fi and all that stuff. So it was just really fun to work with him. I mean, they both were, when it just came to doing the work, I had a really great time. Very cool.
Yeah, that comic I think was in 13/8 timings, right? No, that's a nerdy joke about Tool. So anyway, go ahead, Rich.
Yeah. So let's go to if I can, a question about the Dio Holy Diver. So how long were you working on this when you started on this?
They came to me with it. And like I said, I was a punk rock kid. I grew up on like Bad Brains and Minor Threat and bands like that. So when they came to me, I, of course, knew about the album, and I know Dio, and I know the history. But it wasn't in my immediate, field. So I did my research. I got the album, I downloaded the album, I started listening to it. I went online and I read every interview I could find with him, talking about, especially Holy Diver. And luckily I was working with everything had to be approved by Wendy Dio. So I really wanted to make sure I got it right. So, I wrote this really expansive fantasy story, basically following that priest that you see on the cover. And I bring the whole story in about 115 pages, comes back to the album cover, which, everybody knows at the time was notorious. Mm-hmm. But basically what I did was I'm trying to supply the story to the song.
So did you take the lyrics and use the lyrics as part of the story, or you just interpreted the artwork and the title itself? How'd you do it?
Mostly it was interpreting the artwork, but there are a lot of Easter eggs in there from the lyrics for fans. I wanted to make sure, because it's a fantasy story, I wanted to make sure that there were things in there that only the fans would know. Can
I read a couple lyrics to you, and you can give me a couple, maybe little teases if you can?
I don't know. That might be a little tough.
I'll read you like part of it. How about ride the tiger, you can see the stripes, but he's clean. Oh, don't you see what I mean? Got to get away, holy diver. Is that anywhere part of your story?
That's in the book. It's in the book. It's the one thing, because it's not out yet, and my publisher would kill me if I give away too much. So, yeah. But that's one of the, I really had a lot of fun with that, because like I said, because it's not a biography of Dio. Yeah. It's a fantasy story that is inspired by the lyrics and the cover. Mm-hmm. The cover really inspired me.
Cool. Well, and actually, I think you just answered my question. But so is it just the song, or is it the other songs on the Holy Diver album as well?
I have some Easter eggs from other songs in there, but mostly it's focusing on Holy Diver.
Okay, cool. So I was going to ask. So, and that's interesting. So you do, there's the Last in Line album. He has that, of course, has a lot of albums and his stuff with Black Sabbath. So that stuff is not touched on, and like his Rainbow, Elf, Black Sabbath, his other. This is mainly a Holy Diver focus. Okay, cool.
Holy Diver. That was my job. So, like I said, it was really interesting, and to get the feedback from Wendy Dio, that was the best moment. That was the most fun, because I didn't know what to think, because I'm setting off this, there's all kinds of fantasy stuff and violence going on, and I didn't know if she'd like it, and she just wrote back for the outline. She's like, thumbs up, great, go.
Very cool.
So titles like Rainbow in the Dark or Straight Through the Heart or Stand Up and Shout are not actually in the story. It's just focused solely on Holy Diver.
Exactly.
Well, that's cool.
Really taking one song.
That's a big story. Then.
Yeah, 115 pages. From a song and a cover. So, but it was a blast. It was so fun. And then Scott Hampton is doing the art, and just beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's quite a name. Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff too. Yeah, Z2 really have impressed us a lot. They're all the stuff they're doing, the heavy metal or music, not just heavy metal, but music and comics crossovers. They're doing great stuff, and so it's cool that I guess did they reach out to you and say we love 30 Days of Night, or they just reach out to you and say, hey, you're a big shot, we want you to do this book? How did they approach you?
Exactly. Believe it or not, the editor who I'm working with, I worked with at Disney. Okay. Like 15, 20 years ago. And he got this job, and he called and was like, would you be interested in something like this? Because he knows I'm into music. So yeah, I love the company. I love their concepts. And I've already told Rance, that's my editor, please keep me in mind for other possible bands. And I threw a couple at him too.
Cool. All right, well, go ahead, Rich. I don't want to cut you off. I know you have questions.
No, sorry, go ahead. If you're following up, go ahead.
Well, I guess I was just going to ask, so since you say, so do you, I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase it. So would you say that you have a newfound or deeper appreciation of what Dio was all about and trying to do from doing this kind of project and doing this kind of research?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot between. I mean, I grew up a hardcore kid. I mean, I listened to Motorhead a lot and stuff like that. So it wasn't far out of my reach. Like I said, I was very aware of it and I knew about it. And I love Black Sabbath and stuff like that. So it just I just, like any job, I had to do my research.
Sure. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Rich, go ahead. Like I said, I'll hold off on my next question.
So, can you tell us from the artwork, the mascot Murray, the creature, is that incorporated into the story? Does that incorporate into the story also? Why he's throwing the priest into the water, or you change that?
Oh, the demon.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, yes, he plays a part.
Oh, okay.
Huge part.
Okay.
So do you call him Murray? I don't know if you're aware that was his kind of pet nickname.
Yeah.
Okay. I did. Yeah. I did the research. I did see that, but we, trying to tell a serious story, so didn't want to give him a name.
Okay.
Look out, it's Murray. Yeah, that doesn't have the same, maybe not the same.
What does he refer to as? The monster, the creature, the demon?
The demon.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're under fire. We're not grilling you too much, right? You don't feel like you're being interrogated.
No, I mean, there's really only so much I can say, So,
yeah. Right. Yeah.
No, understood.
I didn't realize it was such a, so many pages. Like, it's a, big story for one song. That's why I was asking, if it incorporates maybe a couple of the other songs or something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a big job. I was actually really surprised that it panned out as big as it did, but it played out really well. And I think people are going to be really into the story. I hope.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're definitely excited for it. And I guess this is the last thing I'm going to ask you about. Then we'll move on to other things. We can take you off the hot seat a little bit. But Rich and I actually were even discussing it. Dio a lot of times doesn't really tell narratives. He kind of just throws a lot of very fascinating imagery and there's a deep meaning to it. But I was wondering, as a writer, taking these disparate images and gelling them together and making it into a narrative. Like, tell us about that challenge as much as you can.
Yeah. Well, I had to. I mean, the song obviously was a big inspiration, but that cover is so powerful. And there's such, I mean, you look at it, you're just like, well, what led up to this? Even throwing a priest in chains into the ocean, so that really intrigued me. And I was like, now, if that's where I have to wind up, how do I get there? And that was the challenge. But it was a great deal of fun.
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, Rich, is he off the hot seat or do you have more questions?
Well, Dio related, I was going to ask if any of the other covers or albums, maybe like The Last in Line, did any of them influence you when you were writing the Holy Diver story, or you just focused on Holy Diver and that was it?
I stuck with the Holy Diver. Who signed that?
That was Ronnie, actually, and Vinny Appice.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
very cool. That's great.
Yeah, and I was gonna, Wendy Dio doesn't know who the hell I am. I've met her a couple of times at events, and she's just the nicest person. She's super nice, and I can't imagine her being difficult. But tell us a little bit. I mean, you've touched on it a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about that experience, because she seems just amazing. She seems great.
That was the most nerve-wracking part, because I really wanted to make her happy. So, the process really was, initially I pitched, I don't know, a couple paragraphs, just like, this is sort of what I had in mind. And I didn't know. I mean, I'd watched the video, listened to the song a million times, read every interview I could find, but you always have doubts. You never know how your idea are going to appeal or not appeal to other people. So it was submitted to her, and she came back really fast too, and just said she loves it. Let's go to an outline. And so from there, I wrote a full, like 15-page outline or so. and she read and approved that. I was, she didn't have any notes. She's like, "You get it," and that was it. So I was very happy.
I'm very cool. That is awesome. All right. I'm promise. I think I'm done with grilling you about. I have lots more questions, but I think these will be the next ones will be easier. But go ahead, Rich. Rich might not be done. I can't speak for Rich.
Well, I was just going to ask. It's because I see there's pre-orders, so it's done. It's going to be coming out when? Do you know the date when it's actually released?
I should know that, and I don't. I've been working with the artist. He's finished with the initial art. So we're doing, now we do the lettering and all that stuff. So it shouldn't be much more than a few months.
Okay, because on the website it says expected to ship June 2021, but that can change. So curious if you knew anything more.
There's no delays. Everything's been going really smoothly. So
okay,
yeah. So then I guess we're going to see it in June. That's great.
Nice.
All right.
All right,
Steve. All right, Steve. So it doesn't matter the company, but just you're given free reign to write any book for any band that you want. So pick a band and do a crossover comic. Who are you going to go for?
A band? One of the ones I suggested was, I don't know if you guys are into this, but Clutch has an awful lot of songs. They have a lot of songs about monsters.
Yes.
Like on every album, there's at least one song about some sort of supernatural, whatever. I would like to do an anthology book based on their songs, on their horror songs. I thought that would be really fun.
I would love to do In Walks Barbarella. If you do that, then call me. No, I'm kidding. But no, that's a great idea. Yeah. Actually, you have someone do the one with the crab cakes recipe. That'll be good.
The crab cakes recipe. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I'm a big fan of Clutch. So I think that'd be great. And they're out of that Maryland kind of East Coast scene too. Yeah. All right. No, that's a great answer. I think that's a good one. All right, Rich. What do you got, Rich? And you out there?
Right, so since the DO is done, what are you currently working on?
Okay, I am going in the absolute opposite direction. I'm working on something for John and Sandy Carpenter. It's a kid's book about our animals. I have a shitload of animals, and so my wife and I have started writing stories around them. And my wife does the outlines. She also comes out of music, so she's very creative. She was in a band called Faith and the Muse. So she does the outlines and I'm doing the scripts. And so I'm doing kids books right now. And it's, it's, I gotta keep changing my headspace. I'm doing that. Like I said, I've got a lot coming down the line. I've been pretty much through the pandemic. I've been just creating new stuff. So I've got about 3 or 4 new series coming out starting next October.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what animals or what interesting animals are we going to see in that book?
Well, one is, and he was making a lot of noise before I got on, so I was really worried. I've got a 125-pound tortoise. That has sort of a separate room to where my office is. Then we've got 4 dogs, 2 cats, and another little tortoise. So, we live out, we have land and stuff, so they get to run around. So, we're writing stories about their adventures.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then, so if you said the other stuff, well, now is there, I should know this, but is there 30 Days of Night ongoing? Is there anything, where is that right now? What's the story with that franchise today?
Nothing happening with 30 Days right now, but I'm talking to people about a reboot, about trying to figure out where the story would be going now. So there's a good chance we'll be seeing some more 30 Days a Night. I've been doing a lot of stuff with I have a comic I do at Dark Horse Comics called Criminal Macabre. And I've been working on a lot of that. I do prose and comics for that. So I've been working on a lot of that stuff lately too.
Nice. And then one more. So is Is it true there's going to be an Alistair Arcane movie? Is that in the works?
You know, they've renewed it a few times. So as far as I know, Eli still wants to do it. So it's just one of those things. You got to just wait. It's got to be the right time and all that. But supposedly it's still happening.
And when you say Eli, as in hostile,
Eli Roth.
Eli, yeah, as in okay, yeah, wow, okay, so yeah, so you got some high caliber attached to it, so that'll be pretty badass. That'll be cool. Yeah, I enjoyed that one as well. I like that one. All right, Rich, go ahead. I'm hogging up the. Go ahead, Rich.
That's all right. Was there a project or somebody you could have collaborated with that you passed on and you wish you didn't?
God, yeah, I guess this sounds terrible, but no, I pretty much, I know better. From years of struggling for work, I don't turn down. There's not much I turn down. I like the challenge. Especially if somebody comes at me with something that is out of my element. I'm even more attracted to that. So,
right,
very cool.
All right,
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, so who are some of your comic creators' heroes? Like, who are some of your heroes, whether they're artists or writers or just anyone from the past or present? Who are some of your heroes?
There's so many. I mean, you got to go with like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, for all the early Marvel stuff, and John Buscema, and I'll go crazy mentioning all the artists. My biggest comic hero is Bernie Wrightson, who created Swamp Thing with Len Wein. He did the most incredible illustrated Frankenstein you'll ever see. And in the last 10 years, I became friends with him. And we wound up doing about five books together. And unfortunately, a few years ago, he passed away. But he is, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest illustrators ever, definitely the greatest horror illustrator.
Okay.
If you don't know who Bernie Wrightson is, anybody listening, you need to go look. If you just see Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein and you see these images, they're stunning.
Now I know Swamp Thing, and actually it's funny because when you say Swamp Thing, I mean my brain, I think a lot of people immediately go to Alan Moore and to that era.
Right.
But so he and Len Wein, they preceded Alan Moore, right? That's Alan Moore took over from them for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the more popular things Bernie did was he did the illustrated Creep Show, the graphic novel that went along with the movie, which he's pretty well known for that. So, but yeah, he's my biggest hero.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Good answers. All right. All right. Go ahead, Rich.
All right. So I'm checking out your Facebook page, and you have a cool image of probably one of my favorite creature suits from, I want to say, I think it's the 70s. It was a TV made for TV movie. Gargoyles.
Yep. Gargoyles.
That was 70s, right? That was 70s, right?
That was 70s. Yeah, and
very
Stan,
cool, very cool suits. So tell me about I would assume you're a big fan then, right?
Huge fan. I've loved it since I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, I wanted to do special effects, and I always wanted to make a gargoyle suit because I read an article that they made them from wetsuits and built up like scuba suits. And then like years later, I found out the guy that was Stan Winston's, who did Jurassic Park and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. That was his first job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a classic. I love it.
Yeah. They still look great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So, I mean, that's a perfect, I think, tie-in from that is what are some other things that you feel like were huge influences, maybe even outside of comics, like Gargoyles or anything else, or like Universal horror, Hammer horror, anything?
Universal horror, definitely. Like Frankenstein, huge influence. All the Frankenstein movies, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, just loved them. I think my single biggest influence, though, was Night of the Living Dead. Which was made by George Romero in like 1968 for I don't know, $70,000 or something crazy, if even that much. And I love it for so many reasons. One, it's a genuinely scary movie. Scared the crap out of me when I was a little kid. Night of the Living Dead is pretty hard on a little kid. And I love that it was independently done. He did it outside the Hollywood system. He shot it in Pittsburgh. He did all these things you're not supposed to do and made an absolute classic. So that Night of the Living Dead is a huge one for me.
Yeah, it's a good answer. Not that I'm judging your answers.
You're a Creature from the Black Lagoon fan. That character really needs a rebirth, and maybe you should write that, because I'd love to see that on the big screen again. Because it hasn't been done since Universal. Aside from the Monster Squad movie, that's the only time you saw the creature return.
Yeah, there's been nothing done with it. And you know what? I have occasional conversations with people at Universal over the years. And there have been some amazing people trying to make Creature. So hopefully one of these days somebody will, make a good remake of Creature from the Black Lagoon, because I'd love to see that.
They should have, when they did the Wolfman remake about 10 years ago now? A little more than that?
Yeah.
Or right around there? With Benicio del Toro, right?
Yeah.
Which
liked
was
it.
very, very good. So when they did that, that's what they should have done to relaunch some of these Universal monsters, because that design was great, I thought. And they could have done great things with the creature and everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love to see them do something with those characters.
Well, I'll ask both of you guys then. So now Rich is the interview subject. So what about The Shape of Water, right? That was the name of the movie, right? It was Oscar nominee.
Yeah, huge. Obviously really influenced by Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
But it definitely went off in its own direction.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. When I was watching the original Creature from the Black Lagoon, I never expected Julie Adams to make out with the creature. Never.
So just total name drop. When we talked to Charlie Benante 2 weeks ago, this is something we geeked out about, Charlie Benante of Anthrax. Like I said, total name drop. But yeah, when we talked to him, that was another one we all agreed. And he also said Universal much more than Hammer and the other eras. And I'm from the same one. I love Bride of Frankenstein. I love that era myself. So
and I love the Hammer movies. I didn't see them a lot as a little kid. Mostly when I grew up in Washington D.C., they were playing Universal mostly. So that's what I grew up with.
I really liked Hammer because they brought it into color, and it was a little more, violent too, and there was blood, and you didn't have that in the black and white ones. They were a little more tame, and when the creatures attacked you, they choked you. But in the Hammer ones, it was a little more aggressive. It was more fitting for those creatures, I thought. So that's why I like the Hammer ones.
Yeah, I love the Hammer ones now. I watch them all the time. Just didn't see them as much when I was a little kid, but now I think I have copies of just about everything.
Cool. All right. Do you have it? Well, this is a good vein, Rich. You got more along this line?
Well, I was wondering what you're currently reading. Any good comics that you'd recommend people to check out?
Right now, I think some of the best comics out there are being done by Rick Remender, who has a book out now called Scumbag that you should absolutely check out if you get a chance. And he's got a bunch of artists working on that. There's a vampire book out there called Philadelphia by Rodney Barnes and Jason Sean Alexander is the artist. Both, he's a great writer, great artist. So those are like the two most recent things that I'm really enjoying.
Cool. Actually, so you triggered my memory. I had a question lined up. So your vampires are obviously about as far as it gets from the Anne Rice world, and of course the Stephanie Meyer world. They're even further. They're not even the same galaxy. But tell us about. Are you an Anne Rice fan? Do you also like the Lestat stuff?
Oh my God, yeah. I remember, when I was like 12 or so, reading Interview with the Vampire for the first time. And I still have all my original paperbacks because they had really hilarious covers in the 70s. They had like photo covers for Interview with the Vampire. Absolutely loved it. Devoured Lestat. I love that stuff. It was just when we were doing 30 Days a Night, we were like, what can we do different? And at the time, like Buffy was really popular. Buffy's like dating a vampire. I mean, they're just, it's a thing we tend to do. We tame our monsters. And when I was talking to Ben, I was like, I want a vampire that doesn't give a shit who I am, that they look at me like I'm a can of beer. I mean, they have no thought at all. They just want to pop the head and drink. So that was a big part. I remember, telling Ben I really wanted them to be like land sharks that just didn't care about you. And he came back with these amazing designs with the rows of sharp teeth and all that stuff. So it was very intentional. We were trying to do something different because there's so many vampire stories out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's not one dimensional. I will say that of the book. I don't. There's huge spoilers, that I could say. Well, I sure won't. But for 30 days. But they're not just one dimensional. But yeah, they're powerful. Like you said, definitely scary. Like vampires are absolutely scary. But so also in those books. So was that you, or was it Ben? That there are these words I noticed kind of when you really look at a panel, like it's almost like they're subliminal. It's almost you don't even notice, but then there'll be like little words embedded in the panel.
Yeah.
Was that your touch, or is that from the artist?
That was Ben.
Very nice.
Okay. A lot of times it would be from a suggestion or whatever, but that's something he would always do, and I loved it.
Yeah, it was neat. It was really cool. It's one of those things where when you spot it, you kind of feel like, holy shit! I found I unlocked the next level. So it was cool stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah, I'm a fan, and actually I'm a recent fan. I mean, to be blunt, like I hadn't read it before. I'll shut up in a second, but so I'd read, Steve Niles changed comics, 30 Days a Night changed comics. I went, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I read it and went, holy shit, he really did. This really was a major. I'm sorry I missed it when it came out, because I can see how this really was a huge impact. It's great stuff.
I'm glad to hear that it's being, discovered now. That's really nice. So.
Yeah. That's all right. So there, I'm done embarrassing myself. Go ahead, Rich. Go ahead, ask me.
What can everybody look for coming from you this year? What can they expect? Any releases aside from the Dia?
This year, I've got a book, a horror western called Black Sparrow, coming out from Sandy and John Carpenter's company, that I did with Scott Hampton again, who I work with as often as I can. And it's co-written by my friend Jay Russell, who's a film director. So that's kind of cool, though. It's a really big, thick, like 128-page horror western. So, I'm hoping for that. And then I've been working with Simon Kudaransky on 3 new series. In October, the first one starts, and it's called A Town Called Terror. And I'm very excited about that one.
Very cool. And where can people, just local comic shop or digital comiXology, like everywhere? Where can people get them?
Comic stores, anywhere there's a comic store, hopefully you'll be able to find it. Or you go directly to the publisher. You can always go to, Storm King Comics, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with them. And you can always get stuff directly from them, and John Carpenter signs them and stuff. And it's very cool.
All right.
Excellent.
Jack, any closing questions?
Yeah, I guess. I think that's a good thing. That's a good way to take us out. I did want to geek out, so bear with me out there, you guys watching and everyone. And so I'll ask a little bit. We won't have to go off the deep end because again we're running low on time. But tell us a little bit about how the sausage is made. Like I know a lot of different creators. I've read a lot of different drafts, a lot of different comic drafts, and some comic creators have very little detail. Some are basically like they're almost writing a novel that the artist has to work with. So where do you fall on that with your drafts, or does it change from project to project?
It totally depends on who the artist is. If I know them, like if I'm working with Scott Hampton, my scripts will be a lot shorter. We have a shorthand we work together with. If I'm working with a new artist, I'm not like Alan Moore. I don't write a page, 1-page panel description, but I do full scripts. And if I'm not used to the artist, I'll do a lot more detail in there. But usually, what I do is I do an outline first. So I send the outline, and the artist gets to sort of give me feedback on that. So then when I go to script, it's a lot more clear, and I already know what to expect.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right. Well, good stuff. All right. So I don't know if either of you guys have any parting thoughts, but I want to say, just Steve Niles has been an honor. Like I said, I love the work you've done, and I'm really looking forward to the DO book. Thanks so much for taking some time to talk to us.
Oh, thank you guys. This has been really fun.
Yeah, I hope so. And thank you guys out there for watching. Yeah, I'd say everyone keep an eye out. Hopefully June, but definitely probably sounds like sometime in 2021. And that's not Steve's promise, by the way. That's hopefully sometime in 2021 we'll see that DO book. So all right, well, thanks everyone. Rich and I will be back next week. We have who do we have next week? Is that official, Rich?
Keith St. John from the Montrose band, and Ronnie Montrose Remembered, and Burning Rain band, and a whole bunch of things.
Excellent. All right, so we'll see you guys next week. All right, thanks everyone. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, guys.
All right.